Draw a strait. A ribbon of open water barely 20 nautical miles across at its narrowest, pinched between two coasts that do not like each other, with a share of the world's oil threading that single gap every day. This is the kind of water the whole world watches, and almost no one can hold. Now hold it, from the air, around the clock, in weather, in front of an audience recording every move. The task is not to attack the strait, it is to keep it, to make sure nothing crosses that does not belong, and to do it without firing the shot that turns a patrol into a war. Every weapon is an answer to a question someone wrote first. So write this one, the short list of things an aircraft must do here, or it fails. It has to stay, hours on station, not minutes. It has to drop low enough to read a small boat on a moving sea. It has to survive being that low. It has to do far more than shoot, warn, threaten, disable, in that order, long before anyone reaches for a trigger. And it has to be cheap enough to do all of it, every hour of every day, without bankrupting the wing that flies it. Each requirement is easy alone. Stacked together, they cancel almost everything the United States flies. Almost. One airframe satisfies all five, and it is the last one anyone would pick. 30,000 pounds of 1972 engineering, built to break Soviet tank columns on the plains of Germany, an aircraft the Air Force has spent more than a decade trying to send to the boneyard. A machine drawn from mud and treetops turned out to be the only thing in the inventory that could read the job posting for a sea it was never drawn to see. This is classified Decoded. To understand the strangest hiring decision in modern air power, stop thinking about firepower and start thinking about one word: presence, and the physics that decides whether presence is real or just a press release. Every air mission over a fight like this, until this one, has been a hunt. Something is inbound, or hiding among the fishing traffic, and the task is to find it and finish it. Either way, the mission closes with something neutralized, and the score is kept in things taken off the board. Blockade enforcement runs that equation backward. The goal is not removal, it is prevention. A ship that turns around the instant it sees you is a win. A ship that never enters the prohibited water at all is the best win there is. The perfect blockade patrol is a long, boring orbit in which absolutely nothing happens. And that boredom is the product. The inversion rewrites the whole spec. A hunter has to find and neutralize. An enforcer has to be seen, be believed, and never leave. Its weapon is not the cannon. Its weapon is the plain fact that it is there, visibly, every hour, with the cannon, and the unspoken promise that it will use it if forced to. Physics is what decides whether that promise reads as credible or empty. And over 20 miles of open water, physics drives a hard bargain. Here the answer stops being a matter of taste and becomes a matter of arithmetic. A blockade is won by whatever airframe can pay every term in that physics equation at once. Endure to be believed, fly low to be sure, survive the altitude that demands, and stay cheap enough to never stop. A jet shaped around a slow, low, patient, survivable, cheap pass over a battlefield was, by accident of physics, already the answer to a sea no one designed it for. The rest of this is the proof. 3 terms in the equation, and why the same unglamorous airframe balances each one. Start with the bargain physics drives over time, because presence you cannot sustain is not presence. It is a gap with a schedule. The strait is barely 20 nautical miles across at the choke point. International traffic threads a separation scheme. 2 directional lanes, roughly 2 miles wide each, buffer between them. And you cannot enforce that corridor by passing through it. You have to cover it, continuously, visibly, without blinking. At 300 knots, an A-10C crosses the full width in a little over 4 minutes. Fast enough. But a patrol is not a crossing. A patrol means staying, long enough to watch what moves, clock where it is headed, and decide whether it belongs there at all. And staying is the first thing most fast jets trade away. An A-10C carrying external tanks holds roughly 2.5 hours on station, armed, visible, low over the same water before anyone has to think about a tanker swap. That is the number that decides this mission. Top speed, service ceiling, sensor reach. None of them matter if the aircraft cannot stay. Time on station is the only figure of merit an enforcer is graded on. Endurance is the energy state of an enforcer. An A-10 Super Hornet or an F-35 can reach the strait and cross it in minutes. But that is exactly the problem. They are sprinters, built to arrive fast and leave fast, and they burn fuel doing it. The Super Hornet buys maybe an hour and change of useful loiter before it has to turn for a tanker, at something near $30,000 a flight hour. The F-35 costs more and stays less, closer to $40,000. Both are superb at getting somewhere. Neither is built to simply stay. The A-10C does the opposite. It loiters longer and flies for under $20,000 an hour. Stretched across a 24-hour cycle, week after week, that gap becomes the difference between a blockade you can hold and one you can only announce. Think of a porch light. It never catches the person testing your door. It talks them out of trying, just by being on all night, every night, where they can see it. The deterrence lives entirely in the persistence. Let it go dark for 1 hour and the whole effect collapses to nothing. An A-10C orbiting the strait at 300 knots is that light, armed, patient, and, this is the part that matters, cheap enough to never switch off. Which raises the next thing physics wants to know. Being there is one problem. Can it actually see what it was sent to stop? And to buy that endurance, the A-10 gave something up. It is slow, it flies low, and it carries no radar of its own. The very traits that let it linger are the traits that make seeing the target hard. The bargain here is about altitude, and it is merciless. From high up, a pilot can see a long way. The geometry alone covers a 20-mile strait with room to spare. But seeing far and seeing clearly are different things, and this kind of water is built to punish the gap between them. The water itself is the problem. When the wind is up and the sea is running, the surface throws radar energy back in every direction at once, a shifting wall of noise that small boats are specifically shaped to disappear inside. From altitude, a fast attack craft is not a clean return. It is a flicker buried in clutter, if it registers at all. Worse still, the boats are built to deepen that blind spot on purpose, and built well. A modern fast attack craft is not made of steel but molded from fiberglass composite, the same family of material as a racing hull. A deliberate choice that buys speed because it is light, and near invisibility because composite barely answers radar. 56 feet, about 14 tons, better than 50 knots, shaped from the keel up to be hard to find. That is not a crude boat, it is a clever one, and respecting that is the start of beating it. So radar is not the answer, and the A-10C does not lean on it. It carries the Lightning Pod on a wing station, a self-contained infrared sensor that ignores radar and reads heat instead. A running engine on a small hull glows against cold seawater like a single lit candle in a dark room. The catch is the size of the room. Stand across the building and that candle drowns in the glare. Drop low and close, and the boat with the hot engine turns unmistakable. Climb away, and it dissolves back into the sea. So the pilot descends. And descent has a price, written in someone else's weapons. Shoulder-fired missiles, man-portable, infrared homing, are tuned for exactly this picture. A slow, low aircraft on a predictable pass. They home on heat, and they bite below roughly 11,000 feet, the same altitude the pilot needs to see clearly. To find what you are sent to stop, you have to fly into the envelope of the thing sent to stop you. The heavier radar-guided SAMs that would make this descent a one-way trip are someone else's job, suppressed or watched by other aircraft. So the A-10 only ever drops into water already swept of anything bigger than a man with a launcher on his shoulder. That residual threat is exactly where an old airframe turns out to be the right one. The cockpit sits inside a titanium shell, about 1,200 pounds of it, rated to take a hit and keep flying. It is the reason the A-10C can descend into the very threat its sensors demand without buying a one-way ticket to do it. To see low, you fly low. To survive low, you wear armor. The A-10 is the only fixed-wing aircraft in the inventory built to do both at once. Now put a problem in front of it. A tanker, 460 feet of steel, 14 knots, bow aimed straight at the line, ignoring the radio, not slowing, not turning. The pilot overhead has a decision, and here is what most people get wrong about it. The choice is not fire or hold fire. Between those two words sits an entire vocabulary, and the A-10C can speak all of it. The first word is silence. The aircraft drops into a low orbit, close enough that the crew on the bridge can count the weapons hanging off each wing. That is a complete sentence, and it costs nothing. Most of the time, it is the only sentence the situation requires. If the steel keeps closing, the second word is the radio, a hail, in whatever language fits. Still no trigger. If that goes unanswered, the third word is physical and precise. One laser-guided APKWS rocket into the water 50 feet off the bow. The captain sees the column of spray and now understands exactly what is above him and exactly what comes next. That whole exchange has cost a single rocket. After that, the A-10C stops talking and starts working. The GAU-8, 30 millimeters, nearly 4,000 rounds a minute, walks across the bridge, the stacks, the deck gear, everything above the waterline that keeps a ship that size moving and under command. It will not put a 400-foot tanker on the bottom, and it does not need to. It needs to take the ship's will away, and a cannon built to punch through tank armor does that to a thin-skinned hull without much argument. But the tanker is only half the picture, because a threat like this does not send tankers alone. As the A-10 settles to warning shot altitude, low, slow, inside the shoulder-fired envelope, exactly where the infrared pod has to be, two contacts peel out of the coastal clutter, then a third, the same composite boats the radar keeps losing in the waves, each one potentially carrying a missile that wants the hottest spot on the airframe. Now there is one aircraft, one tanker that will not stop, and three fast boats closing from the flank, all at once. This is the rung of the ladder no other platform can stand on. A bouncer knows a dozen ways to end a confrontation before the last one. An executioner knows exactly one. An F-35 or an FA-18 arrives already at the final word, superb at it, and useless at every word before it. The A-10C carries the entire sentence, the armor to deliver it from arm's reach, and the fuel to still be circling when the problem finally decides how it wants to end. Step back and ask the question the three pieces only raise together. Why does an aircraft drawn up to stop tank columns end up holding the most important maritime doorway on Earth? Because this mission was never asking for excellence, it was asking for completeness. Most of modern air power is built around the opposite instinct. Push one quality to its absolute edge and let a single dominant strength win the engagement before the other terms ever come due. A blockade quietly inverts that logic. It does not reward the highest peak, it punishes the lowest valley. The moment any one requirement drops to zero, the orbit lapses, the descent becomes suicide, the budget runs dry, the entire mission collapses, no matter how brilliant the other four were. That is the trap a specialist cannot escape. The endurance was not the A-10's headline feature, it was the floor that kept the whole structure standing. Persistence, sight, and the escalation ladder were never three separate strengths to admire in turn. They were three places the mission could have hit zero, and the A-10 is simply the one airframe that never does. So it did not earn this by winning a competition. The physics of the strait wrote a job posting, and a jet the Air Force keeps trying to retire turned out to be the only candidate who met every requirement on the page. The tank buster did not adapt itself to the sea. The sea asked a question whose only answer happened to already exist, in a hangar, marked for disposal. And that exposes what a blockade really is. It is a psychological operation that physics has to make believable. A patrol the crews cannot see is not a blockade, it is a rumor. A patrol that can only choose between nothing and a wreck is a string of bluffs. A patrol that cannot afford to stay is a schedule with gaps wide enough to run a fast attack boat straight through. Credibility is the actual product here, delivered fresh every hour, and it is the one thing a defense budget cannot counterfeit. The A-10 delivers it for an unglamorous reason. It is always there, always armed, and cheap enough to never leave. exactly what a contested strait demands, and almost nothing else in the sky supplies. If that rearranged how you think about what a blockade actually asks of an aircraft, that is the whole point of this channel. Subscribe to Classified Decoded. We don't cover what happened. We decode why the physics left only one answer. The A-10 was drawn up in 1972 for a war on a continent that no longer plans to fight it. The physics of an entirely different problem, open water, small boats, a doorway the world cannot afford to lose, reached back across 50 years and found that the only airframe shaped to fit was the one already heading out the door. The retirement clock has not paused for the irony. The fleet is drawing down, and somewhere a calendar already holds the date of the last Warthog's final landing. So the question is not whether the A-10 can hold this line. It can. The physics is plain, and the only thing standing against it is a budget. The real question waits on the far side of that final landing. When the last tank buster is gone, who writes the next job posting? And is the aircraft that answers it even built yet? Or is it still just a list of requirements nobody has managed to match? Physics does not care what we choose to retire. It only keeps writing the spec.